Hey guys, welcome back to Urology 101. I'm James Farrell, and today I want to talk a little bit about what's in a scrotum and what in the world can go wrong with it. I had a poor guy come in today who wasn't that concerned, which made it a fun visit, but the poor guy's scrotum was swollen up pretty much like that punching bag back there. It was just big. And every now and then you come across somebody who has that issue. And and maybe it isn't that big, but maybe you look down there and been like, wait a second, what's going on? I feel like I got a water balloon in here. And so I kind of want to go through some of that and get across what some of those things can be. So obviously if you're a guy, you know that the scrotum gets bigger, gets smaller with heat, when you're cold, whatever. But every now and then it can get bigger and just sort of stay bigger, and it can feel like there's a water balloon in there. And typically what that's called is a hydrocele. And what that means is that around the testicle there are a couple linings of things, and there's always a little bit of fluid in there. And so that fluid is sort of like oil in an engine, right? It allows structures to move back and forth without friction. So there's always a little bit of fluid that helps things slide back and forth. And sometimes those layers don't reabsorb that fluid really well, and you can get some extra amount of it there that doesn't reabsorb, and then it begins to accumulate. And as it accumulates over time, it starts to push that layer out away from the testicle more. And now you've got sort of this 3-4 centimeter thing, or maybe a little water balloon on one side of the scrotum. And the testicle's in there. That's not just testicle, so it's not like your testicle is swollen up. It's in there, and it's probably completely normal. But it's pretty swollen, and for most guys, that swelling won't necessarily go away, and that's called a hydrocele, and more specifically called a non-communicating hydrocele. Every now and then the fluid comes and goes away, and that's actually more associated with what's called a a communicating hydrocele, and that's pretty similar to actually having a hernia in your groin. But if you have some scrotal swelling and it's on one side and it's sort of like there's a water balloon and it just feels heavy and worse over the course of the day, that's something that you should come see us for. And it's not something that's going to kill you, it's completely a quality of life thing. It really is only treatable by a surgery to remove that lining that's sort of trapping that fluid there. It's not a big surgery, it's a same day thing. It is an incision in the scrotum. We remove that lining, get all the fluid out, and then you may think we're terrible surgeons for a few weeks because it's still going to be swollen and it's going to be bruised and annoying. But give us 3 or 4 weeks, it will go away and you will get better. And it's not the end of the world, but they're pretty annoying, and we can help you with that. And also, there's no need to do anything right away. You can wait 6 months, 8 months, 2 years. That's all okay. Other things that can happen in there, you can have something called a spermatocele. That's really just a bigger version of what's called an epididymal cyst. And we've talked about the epididymis before. Like if this is the testicle, the epididymis is that worm-like structure on the back of it. And that can get infected and get swollen and cause epididymitis, and that's really painful. But sometimes you can just get a cyst there, which a cyst is just a fluid-filled sac. And that's also not a concern for cancer. It's not an issue like that. But they can get bigger over time, and if they get a lot bigger, we tend to call them spermatoceles. So you often in the scrotum would still be able to feel the testicle, but then there's something on the backside of it that's huge and annoying. And that also is a surgery to remove that. And if you're past the age of having kids, then we don't really have a lot of concerns about injuring the epididymis and harming your fertility. But if you're young, sometimes trying to remove those cysts or that spermatocele can be a concern for damaging the epididymis and harming your ability to get sperm from the testicle to the vas deferens, because that middle group of tubes, the epididymis, can get scarred from those surgeries. So if you're young, we may talk about trying to keep you from having surgery until you're done having kids. But once you get past the age of having kids, usually it's just okay, let's take care of it if you want to, but if you're fine with it and it's not bothering you, then you don't need to do anything about it. One of the other ones that can happen down there is something called a varicose seal. So now we got three things that end in the word seal, right? We're trying to make this as confusing as humanly possible. I get that. So hydrocele, the first one we talked about, the water balloon. Spermatocele, kind of next to the scrotum, gets bigger. Now varicocele, that's dilation of some of the veins. And when you think about varicose veins, you usually think about legs and things like that. And this is similar, it just happens in the scrotum. It tends to happen on the left side more than the right. There are a couple theoretical reasons for that. One is that the drainage from the testicle back to the main veins in the middle of your body tends to be a little more circuitous on the left side. So that's why we think that it happens on the left side more, but we're not absolutely certain on that. Anyways, it's dilation of the veins. And sometimes people will come in just saying that over the course of the day, things just ache more. Like you feel fine when you lay down for 20 or 30 minutes. You feel fine when you wake up in the morning, but as the day goes on, the testicle just aches. And the scrotum sort of fills up with like the characteristic, and this is going to be gross, I'm sorry, but the characteristic is like a bag of worms. Like it feels like there's a bag of worms above your testicles sometimes. And those are like the big ones, the ones that are the most obvious to see, and there are grades below that. But that's really the varicocele. And the idea there is just that those veins lose their ability to kind of continue to push blood against gravity back into your body or into your abdomen and back into the rest of your circulation. So what we do there is we can actually cut the veins a little bit higher near where the pubic bone is. It's called a varicocelectomy or varicocele ligation. And what the blood has to do is find an alternate way back, but then it reduces those veins in the scrotum. It reduces their ability to kind of dilate and be annoying. Now that does a couple things for you. If you have that classic type of pain, it'll get rid of that pain. The other thing it can do is that we think that varicoceles are one of the causes of infertility. So if you have a varicocele and you're having trouble having kids, it will be helpful for your sperm quality, and that can improve your ability to have kids. And if you haven't started trying to have kids yet, but you have a varicocele, there is some data to support that it's worthwhile correcting it ahead of time as well. Not as much data, it's not as strong of an indication, but it's out there. For the most part, though, we do see a lot of young guys with varicoceles who have concerns for fertility, and we also see plenty of older guys who have had 2, 3, 4 kids who have the same level of a varicocele, and then just want it taken care of because it's annoying. So the point there is that a varicocele can be an issue with fertility, but it isn't always. And we can work with you on that one too. Those are the main 3 oddball things in the scrotum that cause it to get all dilated and weird and have guys coming in. The other ones are a little less common. Obviously, we've talked about testicular pain, and any of these can cause testicular pain, but that kind of chronic, achy, throbbing sensation sort of makes you like bend over like, oh man, what is that? That's really just testicular pain, again, especially if you don't have any swelling. And sometimes guys will come in with that type of pain plus one of these types of signs in the scrotum. And maybe it'll help with the pain and maybe not, but talk with your urologist about that, about whether they think your pain is typical of one of those diagnoses. Obviously, testicular cancer is something that happens, but with a hydrocele, a varicocele, and a spermatocele, none of those are linked to testicular cancer. So that's not something to be worried about. So I hope this helps. Go see your urologist. Have them take a look at you. All right, take care of yourselves. Take care of your families. Have a great night.